Welcome back to the Scoreboard for Week 17 of the 2024 NFL season. I am Smokey Rameriz, and once again, I am alone. Alex is not here. He's still in the process of getting whatever straightened out, but we all know the truth. It's because the 49ers are horrible right now. They were terrible, and he's not here. But we're going to get through this week's slate of games. First off, we're going to go back and check out our picks from last week. You know what? I really don't want to do this now that I look at it. We disagreed on 3 games. That would be the Texans and the Chiefs. I thought Patrick Mahomes was not going to play, so I kind of blew that pick because he was out there. Apparently, the Chiefs win no matter what. It's like Hulk Hogan back in the 90s and 80s. He must win at all costs. No matter what, the Chiefs are going to win every single time. So I'm going to stop picking against them, I guess, man. The Steelers and the Ravens we disagreed on. I actually got that one. I picked the Ravens because the Steelers are having issues right now. I hope this is not a downward spiral at the end of the season going into the playoffs. They should still make it, but man, it's not looking good for the Steelers right now. Maybe they can pull it back together. The other one we disagreed on was the Bucks and the Cowboys. And the Bucks basically took a dump on the field. Now, it was a close game. It didn't get out of hand by any means. I just feel like the Bucks are overall a much better team than the Cowboys, and the Cowboys have struggled at home all season. However, the Bucks couldn't quite pull it together, and they cost me a pick there. So he got 2 of them over my 1. Overall, 10 for me on the week, 11 for Alex on the week, bringing the total on the season to 171 for me and 176 for Alex. I have 5 points to make up. So I'm going to have to go out on a limb here this week, and hopefully I can make up some games here and close this gap. There's only 2 weeks left in the season, so it's down to nut cutting time. So maybe if I don't make it up, I can still do it in the playoffs. We may keep that a separate issue. I'm not sure, but I need to make that up. So we're going to have some disagreements in this one. I have to. I've got Alex's picks, and basically the ones that I'm undecided on that I feel like are 50-50 shots, I'm just going to pick the opposite of what he picks and hope I get those right. It's going to be a shot in the dark at this point. It's going to be a jump ball and see who wins this one. But I have his picks. Here are mine. Let's get into this slate. We're going to start off on Wednesday night with the Chiefs and the Steelers. Now, I made mention of both of these guys already in this episode. And exactly what I said. The Chiefs must win at all costs. So how can you pick against the Chiefs here, especially with the struggles of the Steelers? And like I said, I'm hoping they're not headed for a downward spiral, but it doesn't look good right now. I really fear for the outcome of this team for the rest of the season. However, Coach Tomlin is a genius. I'm sure he can pull something together, but this may not be the week to do it because it's the Chiefs. I feel like the Steelers are a better overall team. I think the whole world knows that. We've seen the struggles that the Chiefs have had all season, yet they do not lose. They just don't lose. I mean, outside of that one game to the Bills, the one team that happens to have a comparable quarterback over the past 5 to 6 years, the only guy who can stand in that class with Patrick Mahomes over those years is Josh Allen. So they lost that game. But they're not losing anything else. I mean, Jesus, this record is ridiculous at this point. It makes no sense because they're not nearly as good on the field as that record, but they do not lose by any means. So I feel sorry for the Steelers, but no one can actually pick them in this game. Maybe there's an outside chance that something happens. I just don't feel like it's going to. Man, I hope the Steelers can turn it around because that is one of my favorite teams in the NFL, and I like cheering for the Steelers, and I like Coach Tomlin. I don't hate Russell Wilson like most people do, but right here, going with the Chiefs. So is Alex. The Chiefs are going to win this one on the road on Wednesday night. Unfortunately. Well, next up, we have the Ravens and the Texans. Texans are at home here, and the Ravens are going on the road. But as we saw the Chiefs basically handily win the game, it wasn't that much of a struggle overall. The Chiefs got the win. The Texans are a good team, a above average team, but they're not a great team. Now the question is, are the Ravens? Because the Ravens at times this season has looked like an elite team. They have passed greatness. They have gone on to elite at certain times. But then there's also times where they struggle. They're going to be on the road here. That one makes this closer than anyone would think it should be on paper. Their records are not that dissimilar. So I wouldn't fault anyone for taking the Texans here. But I think the Ravens take this one on the road. I think Lamar can just get it done, and I think C.J. Stroud, although being a really good game manager and a good pocket passer, he doesn't have the dynamic ability like a Lamar Jackson to just eke it out whenever the game is on the line, like apparently Patrick Mahomes does. But Lamar Jackson does that, and I don't think C.J. Stroud quite has that. They should be in the playoffs this season, but they're probably not going to win this one. I will be taking the Ravens on the road, and so will Alex. That is not a disagreement. We'll both take the Ravens. Let's go down to the Thursday night game. Seahawks and Bears. I can't call this a tank bowl because the Seahawks have pulled off several wins this season. Even games where they really shouldn't have won, they have. I know Geno has struggled with his health recently, but he will probably be out there, and you probably won't be seeing Kenny Pickett on the field. If it is, this game is going in the opposite direction. I know the Bears have absolutely struggled, but they have an offensive unit. They just don't quite have the quarterback. At this time, he is not developed to make a playoff run and win tons of games. But if it all goes to plan, if Geno Smith is the quarterback and he's out there, I'll be taking the Seahawks on the road. So will Alex. Alex hates the Seahawks, but he's picking the Seahawks right here. Now, here's a game on Saturday that I find more intriguing than most people probably would, because I think the Patriots are much better than their record, and I think this is a team that's going to improve into the future. Their quarterback, Drake May, he is going to get better as these games go along, and I think we're seeing it. This team is getting better. They're not winning a ton of games, but they gave the Bills everything they could handle last week. This team is actually not that bad. I've never had love for the Patriots, especially with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady being there. Boo, Tom Brady. But they have been pretty horrible over the past few years, ever since Tom Brady left. They are getting better, and I do predict that they will make a really good run, a 10-win season next season at least, and maybe make a run into the playoffs here. But the Chargers are on fire. They got the win over the Broncos, a red-hot Broncos. The Chargers are really, really good. I hear they're getting J.K. Dobbins back. Hopefully for this game right here, that's going to add, because the only struggles they've really had on offense was the running back position. They're out there throwing to their really young wide receivers. Justin Herbert is making connections with Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey. And if both of those guys are out there and J.K. Dobbins, this offensive unit can't be stopped, in my opinion. They also have a really young tight end that is developing really quickly, and he's going to be a force into the future. It's just a really young offensive unit, and they are making headway in this season. Picking the Chargers on the road, so is Alex. No question there. Everybody thinks the Chargers should win easily, right? And they should, but I think the Pats will give them a bit of a time doing it. The Broncos, speaking of, coming off of that loss, are headed to face the Bengals in Cincinnati. Man, this is a tough road for the Broncos. I mean, you're facing the Chargers and the Bengals back to back. You're facing two super offensive units. It's going to be tough, man. The Broncos, they're still going to make a playoff run, in my opinion. Like, it should be fine for the Broncos. They're in a really tough division. You know what? There's a chance they don't make the playoffs. If the Chargers keep heating up, we know the Chiefs are in. I mean, there's no doubt about that. man, I hope the Broncos don't get left out because those North divisions are really good. And we may see the Broncos get knocked out right at the very end. I'd have to look out the playoff scenarios, make sure they're not already locked in somehow, which I don't think they are. I think it's still some work to do, and this one's going to be a tough one because you're in Cincinnati. It's going to be really cold. Not that the Broncos really care about the cold. They're out in Denver where it's frozen anyway up on the mountain. But the Bengals are just way too good on offense. The Broncos have a stellar defensive unit for sure, but the Bengals are just unstoppable on offense. They're going to put up 30 points every game regardless, and you can't stop that. You can say whatever you want about their record at this point, but we know that offense is unstoppable. That might be the best offense, and it's really ironic that they have a record such as they do. But the Bengals are really good, and I feel for the Broncos. Another team that I never had love for, but I can see the greatness incoming for this team, and I think Bo Nix is a wonderful quarterback. He's going to be really good into the future. A lot of these young quarterbacks are going to develop, and they are pushing the old guys out. We're going to see that come up really quickly in the next few years. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, these guys are getting pushed aside. Stafford may be the next one. Who knows? Derek Carr's getting pushed out, I'm sure. I'm sure the Saints draft a new quarterback this offseason. But yep, Bengals take this one on the road. Speaking of Matt Stafford, he's going to be at home to face the Cardinals, a division rivalry right here. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned Alex is also picking the Bengals, so no disagreement there. But the Rams and the Cardinals, like I said, divisional rivalry. I think one of these teams is just better overall than the other team. It's been Jekyll and Hyde for the Cardinals because there has been sometimes this season where they kind of look like they could be world beaters, but then they just take a dump on the field the very next week and blow it all. So overall, the Cardinals are not a great team. I don't know when they replace Kyler Murray. I don't think Kyler Murray is ever going to be a deep playoff run guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a Super Bowl guy. They would have to really fortify that offense for it to happen because Kyler Murray is just way too unpredictable. But the Rams, steady. They are steady. It's Sean McVay. He knows how to put together an offense. And when you have a veteran quarterback like Matt Stafford, as long as one of these new guys don't come along and bump him out of position, I think the Rams are going to be a decent offensive team for sure. They're going to win this one at home. Let's move on to the Sunday games. Oh, I forgot once again. Alex is also taking the Rams. He hates the Rams, but he also hates the Cardinals. This is probably a meteorite game. He probably wants both of them to lose here, but he's taking the Rams. On to Sunday. We have the Colts and the Giants. I can't call this a tank bowl because it turns out the Colts are only one game below 500. Talk about Jekyll and Hyde there, though. This team could get into a shootout with the Titans and win, or they could just blow it and put up like 3 or 4 points against somebody. That's who the Colts are. That's what you're going to be with Anthony Richardson there. But the Giants are terrible. The Giants are looking for the number one seed. They're the number one overall pick. They're not seeding anything in the playoffs, that's for sure. But yeah, the Giants are really bad. I think the Colts are just a little better than them. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this, much like the game against the Titans, just turns into a shootout somehow. And some combination of Danny DeVito and Drew Lock come out there and put a ton of points on the Colts. It's very possible. I don't know that it will happen, even though it's in New York. The Giants don't want to win. You have to go with the Colts here. They should win this one pretty easily. The Jets and the Bills. Aaron Rodgers says he is not going to give up on this team. He has all intentions of playing out even through the injury. Aaron Rodgers is such a polarizing character, and I don't know if he's still good or not. I don't think the world knows. No one really knows what to make of Aaron Rodgers. Some people want to see him as completely done because they disagree with his social outlook and the inflammatory things that he says to people. But I want to keep it to on the field here, and I really have no idea if he has lost it, if he's washed up, or he still has some good years left. The guy is getting up there in age, and not too many quarterbacks really make a good run after the point in time that he is at right now. Tom Brady, one of the few that has done that. But Aaron Rodgers, man, I think you may be winding down. That may just be it. Now, the Bills are coming off of that struggle over the Pats, and then they're coming off of a loss before that. You know, I think this may hurt Josh Allen's MVP chances. I think he's still the front runner at this point in time. These last couple of games have probably swayed the vote slightly in some of the voters' eyes. Maybe so. But this one, you're at home. You know that Josh Allen is going to take this game over. It doesn't matter that the Jets used to have a really great defensive unit. The Bills' offense is just that much better. Taking the Bills at home. No disagreements yet, but here we go, because these are the 50-50 tank bowls coming up right here. Titans and the Jaguars. I bet on the Jaguars, not money-wise, but, you know, I made my pick for the Jaguars last week. They let me down. I lost a point there. Don't want to go back to them again. You know, the Titans lost to the Colts in that shootout game. But Alex is picking the Titans here. So I'm going to be picking the Jags. And luckily, they're at home. Don't know that they're really better than the Titans. Both of these teams are bottom of the barrel right now. Mac Jones has had some good games, though. So I think he can pull this out. I think Mac Jones is as serviceable at the quarterback position as Anthony Richardson, if not better. I know that's two completely different play styles, two completely different offensive plans if you're going to play either one of these guys. But overall, if you just look at the entire scope of it, Mac Jones is probably just as good of a quarterback as Anthony Richardson. Here's the one weird thing that bothers me, is this is the Christmas season, and Mason Rudolph has been known to save Christmas. Luckily, this is not an on-Christmas game. It'll be a little after, so hopefully he doesn't save the day for Christmas for the Texans, or for the Titans here. Yep, I'm going with the Jags. I'm going to take this one. Alex is going with the Titans. He wants to see Mason Rudolph pull it off here. Will Levis is now the backup. Man, what an arc his career has taken, huh? Raiders and the Saints. Now, this Tank Bowl also. This is another 50-50 game. Aiden O'Connell was out there, and Spencer Rattler was out there for the Saints last week. Man, tell it something that does not inspire interest is Aiden O'Connell versus Spencer Rattler on Sunday. Man, you know what? It's a 50-50 game. We saw the Saints get blown out on Monday night. Like, they got absolutely handled. They laid an egg out there. Spencer Rattler looked like he was falling apart. Man, he looked like not even an XFL guy out there. He was so bad. And I'm wondering if the Saints are legitimately tanking at this point. They're kind of in the middle of the pack with their record, because their record is not, say, the record of the Giants or something like that. They may want to lower their draft number just a hair or two. Maybe what's happening here. I don't know, but I know that was probably the worst game any team has played this entire season, Monday night against the Packers. I mean, they did it. They went out into the middle of the field, pulled their helmets off, squatted down, sat down on their helmets, and just took a dump right on the field and gave the Packers everything they wanted to do in that game. So the Saints are really bad, but so are the Raiders. You got one offensive weapon on there. Now, Brock Bowers does look great. That's why Alex is picking the Raiders here. I have no choice, because I need to make up points, that I'm going with the Saints. And luckily, it's in New Orleans. That's the good thing about these opposite picks here, is the ones I'm picking are at home, and that really helps. Panthers and the Bucks. Now, if you would have asked 2 weeks ago, who's going to win this game? Oh, absolutely, the Bucks. Easily, right? Well, we saw them get whooped. Not whooped. They got beat, though. They got beat for the entire game. You know, it was close at the end, but they pretty much got beat the entire game against the Cowboys. But they're at home here. they're facing the Panthers, who are coming off of a win, and the Panthers are better than anyone gave them the respect of being. That's for sure. We're still wondering if Bryce Young is going to be the quarterback next season, because they're actually winning some games, and he's playing much better. There is a chance they don't draft a quarterback. They don't end up with Shedeur Sanders or whoever, in this upcoming draft, that they might stick with Bryce Young for another season. A lot of people aren't giving me any credulity over that, but I think it's a possibility. I really do. Either way, Alex and I both agree the Bucks will win this one at home. They're overall the better team. They're trying to win the division right now, because as of right now, the Falcons are leading the division. Who saw that coming 2 weeks ago? No one. I definitely didn't. But hey, quarterback change will do you, huh? Yeah. We'll talk about the Falcons later. Next up, the Cowboys and the Eagles. The Cowboys are coming off of that win, like I just said. The Eagles are coming off a shootout divisional loss to the Commanders. I will say the Commanders are better than the Cowboys. There's no doubt about that, especially with Cooper Rush out there. So therefore, with the Eagles being at home, this is a tick in the favor of the Eagles here. Overall, this team has dominated quite a few games this season. It does feel like they're kind of resting Saquon Barkley at this point, because he's not putting in the work that he did earlier, not really getting that MVP run at this point in time, but probably still Offensive Player of the Year. Eagles are at home, Cowboys on the road. Yes, the Cowboys struggled at home, but they also struggled on the road. Cowboys have just been bad this year outside of a few decent wins they've had. Taking the Eagles at home. So is Alex. The Dolphins and the Browns. Now, the Dolphins got that win over the 49ers. The 49ers tried. They tried their hardest to get back into that game. It just wasn't happening. The team is not firing this year. But the Dolphins, they still have hopes of making the playoffs. 49ers were aware that they were eliminated from the playoffs before that game, so that may have played into it, but the Dolphins have hopes of still making it at this point in time. And there's no doubt that with Tua, they are good enough to at least be in the playoffs, if not win a few games. We'll see how it plays out in the end, but the Browns, yeah, it's the Browns. It is the factory of sadness, and if you're going to have DTR out there at quarterback, this team is not going to do more than a 6-point game like last week. This team is pretty bad. You don't have Nick Chubb. You don't have Jameis Winston out there. They are horrible at this point in time. I'm taking the Dolphins to win this and keep their playoff hopes alive. Alex is also picking the Dolphins, so we agree on that one. Here comes a disagreement. The Packers and the Vikings. Now, this is a tough game because we saw the Packers absolutely dominate last week, and we know how good the Vikings are with Sam Darnold. This team is so good that Sam Darnold is being mentioned in the MVP run. Ask somebody to make that prediction before the season started. We didn't even know he was a starter, and now he is being talked about as one of the 4 hopefuls to make the MVP this year. Probably not going to do it unless something crazy happens. Say Josh Allen does go down a spiral, and Lamar Jackson also. Then it would be Jared Goff's to win. But if, they really looked at the numbers, Sam Darnold would be that guy next in line. So that makes this tough. Alex is picking the Packers because he was absolutely impressed with that Monday night blowout, that stubbing, that molly-whopping that they did to the Saints. I liked it too. I mean, it was great to watch. I was happy that Jaden Reed got those couple of passes at the very end because it put me into the fantasy playoffs. But I know no one wants to hear about my fantasy teams, but yeah, I'm in the finals. I'm in the championship game. Yeah, buddy. No, he's picking the Packers here, so I'm picking the Vikings. I think the Vikings are just a hair better than the Packers at this point in time. Divisional game, anything can happen. But the Vikings are at home. I'll give them the 3 points. There's another disagreement. The Falcons and the Commanders. Like I said, what a difference a quarterback change makes. We always talk about the coach change in the middle of the season and the 2-game bump. That doesn't always happen for the quarterback, but a lot of times it does. You'll see a team that is absolutely struggling change their quarterback, and then they just win the next 2 games. Like I said, it doesn't happen as often as it does with the coach change, but the quarterback does happen a lot. And here we got Michael Penix showing off the big Penix. But yeah, that's all those kind of jokes I'll make for you. But yep, Michael Penix looks so much better than Kirk Cousins. We're talking about cutting Kirk at this point in time. And probably for the salary, that might be your best option. I don't know. I'd have to look at how it's laid out. Haven't really listened to a lot of analysts talk about the consequences of keeping Kurt as a backup, because he probably doesn't want to play backup. He wants to be a starter somewhere anyway, but the Falcons are going to pay a lot of his salary for next season. It'll be a lot like the Russell Wilson issue going on with the Broncos and the Steelers. Whoever takes Kurt, the Falcons are going to flip the bill for it. But apparently they feel like they have some advantage to cutting him. We'll see how that plays out. But Penix looks like the guy of the future. Let's hope he can continue that. Now, he didn't go out there and just have some wonderful blow-up Tom Brady game or anything, but he was good. And this team looked motivated with Penix out there, whereas they didn't look motivated with the last few games of Kirk Cousins. So maybe this team has new life. They're leading the division. They've got something to play for. They might pull this off. The Commanders are a really good team. We're going to see, did this matchup happen? No, I don't think it happened in college. We didn't see Penix versus Jaden. But it is a rookie quarterback matchup. Unfortunately, Penix is starting way too late in the season to make a run for that Rookie of the Year. So it's going to be Jaden or Bo Nix at that point. Now, there's a guy that Penix did face twice in his final season there at Washington. He faced the Oregon Ducks with Bo Nix and won both of those. Went into the playoffs. Made it all the way to the national championship game. This guy's a legit baller. It's just if the team can give him enough momentum and develop him the right way and hold this team together long enough for him to develop, I think Michael Penix is a guy of the future. And the Falcons have had wonderful success with quarterbacks named Michael in the past. You got Chandler, you got Vic, and now you got Penix. It should be good. Since Alex is picking the Commanders, I know we're on the road here, but I'm going to stick with the Falcons and say the 2-game bump happens because I need to make up the picks anyway. I would normally just be picking the Commanders, but I want to see the Falcons win. I want to see them make it into the playoffs. I want to see Michael Penix develop and be that guy that Desmond Ridder never could be. He just couldn't develop into that guy. Penix absolutely could. So with that being said, I'll be picking the Falcons. Alex is picking the Commanders. There's a disagreement. We have 4 right there. Not gonna disagree on this one though. Monday night, your primetime game will be the Lions versus Alex 49ers. Yep, Lions versus 49ers. Man, how the mighty have fallen. The Lions have rose to the top of the heap, and they are the best team in the NFC, whereas the 49ers are down at the bottom of the barrel at this point in time. Yeah, their record doesn't say they're in line for a top 5 pick or anything, but over the last few games, the 49ers have absolutely struggled. It's a tough road to hoe for the 49ers, man. They don't have Christian McCaffrey. They don't have Brandon Ayuk. Debo did get going in this game, which was surprising to me because he has struggled a ton. Or either he has struggled or they just hadn't had him in the game plan, but they did use him, and he got a touchdown in this one. And Debo is one of those guys that can swing the game in your favor if you get him going. We all know George Kittle, probably a top 3 tight end in the entire league, if not the best. Outside of Brock Bowers at this point, but receiving, that is. We all know that George Kittle is a great blocker also. Probably the best tight end in the league. I don't think it helps here. The Lions just have way too much momentum, and the 49ers have nothing to play for at this point in time. I'm going with the Lions. So is Alex. The Lions are going to win this one on Monday night and show everyone why they're going into the playoffs and probably to the Super Bowl. and why Jared Goff is in the MVP running. Let's talk about the MVP really quick. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. This is a lot closer than it was last week or the week before. Josh Allen struggled, and it closed the gap. Lamar Jackson is still hauling in great numbers each week. Jared Goff is on a team that's probably the best in the NFL and probably going to the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold is also nipping at their heels. I think that's your order as of right now, but it's not a runaway anymore. I think the betting lines have drawn in on Josh Allen, and one of these guys could take this award from him. It's still his to win right now, but if he struggles, one of these guys is going to sneak up and take it from him, because Josh Allen hasn't had a lot of great history with the MVP. Hasn't won it yet, even though he's had multiple MVP-like seasons. He just hasn't won it yet. We'll see if he can hang on to it. But right now, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold in that order. Rookie of the Year, you want to know that? Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. They're fighting over it. I think I already mentioned that this week. So that'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you for joining us one more week. Maybe we'll get Alex back next week, and we can talk about the final week and going into the playoffs. And we will wrap this season up for 2024. Man, we've been doing this for 5 seasons. About to wrap up the 5th season here. It's been a great one. If you would, please give us a like and a subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And for God's sake, leave us a comment down in the comment section. Tell us what you think about these games. Tell me which one I got wrong. Tell me about the MVP and why it's definitely going to be Baker Mayfield and none of these guys. Let me know right down in the comment section. For Alex, I am Smokey Rameriz. We'll see you next week. Deuces.